Over the past 5 years, I've spent close to thousands of dollars on my classroom, and it's safe to say I've made my fair share of great purchases and some purchases that were just not the best. That's why today I'm going to share with you the top 7 classroom must-haves for your second grade classroom that I personally wish I would have bought my first year in second grade. Earlier, I posted the top 7 things every kindergarten teacher should purchase, which you can check out by going to this link above. In that video, I did mention some items that would work for second grade, but I'm not going to mention them here. So if you want even more ideas after watching this video, make sure to go check it out or check the description down below. The first second grade classroom must-have that I highly recommend are the hanging organization file folders like this one. I absolutely love this because I hung it right outside or right by my door when I left the classroom, and I actually had pockets for each day. So what I did is I put Monday through Friday, and then I also had things to copy and then also a different one to file. This made the paper clutter a lot less because whenever I was done making my copies on Tuesday for the week, I could just take those copies and just put them in the right day. That way, for example, I made copies for the upcoming week for both reading and math stations. I can now just take my file of copies and put them into each day. That way, as stations got closer, I could put those papers into my cart, which I used for my second grade centers. This made the paper trail and organization a lot neater, and it also didn't take a lot of space. That's why I highly recommend getting these ones. I had a polka dot theme or a polka dot one that was super cute, but I'll also link some other plain ones in the description down below. The second grade classroom must-have I highly recommend getting are these reading buddies. You see, in second grade, we really focus on building our confidence in reading, and I had a lot of students come in not very confident in their reading skills. So I actually had it as one of my centers to silent or whisper read to a reading buddy. What would happen is I had a bucket or a bin full of magical creatures because I had a Harry Potter themed classroom full of stuffed animals that I had gotten on Amazon, or I had also gotten at Hobby Lobby, yard sales, and whatnot. But what I would do is I put these reading buddies inside and I taught them what it should look like, sound like to use these, but I would have my kids go to the reading center and they would pull out a reading buddy and whisper read to them. A funny story about the reading buddies, it was during COVID when I was teaching second grade and we had to have our desks spread out. And my students had just finished breakfast and they were sitting down quietly in their desks reading to their reading buddy. And I had the door open to the outside door because it was very nice outside and we were getting some fresh air. And my kids were reading to some of the reading buddies were birds. And as they were reading, a bird flew by the window and the door and started chirping. Well, my sweet little second graders, they said, "Oh my gosh, Miss Haynes, the reading buddies are real. I just heard them." So they're holding up their reading buddies, shaking them to their ear, talking to them. I'm like, "Oh, you guys, there's a bird that just flew by the window." They're like, "No, no, 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 I swear." And not even a second later, another bird flew by, and my kids were convinced from that point on that the reading buddies were real. Having reading buddies in the classroom was amazing because it really helped my kids build their confidence in reading, and I could see that later when we went to reading buddies and my kids were not as shy or timid about reading out to others because we had practiced all year reading to our reading buddies. It also helped teach my kids empathy and compassion because we talked about what bucket filling and bucket dipping looks like when we take care of these, or what it should and shouldn't look like to care for our reading buddies. If for some reason we weren't treating our reading buddies like we should, I put our reading buddies in the magical creature hospital and they would have a certain amount of time until they were returned back to the classroom. So if you are thinking of diving more into centers, especially for silent reading or having your kids read every day, I highly recommend getting some stuffed animals or reading buddies for your classroom. Now, the next item I admittedly didn't get until the beginning of last year, and I really wish I would have gotten them sooner, and those are tea stools. So this is a tea stool, and how it works is it has a flat top and then it's rounded on the bottom. So if you have kids with attention disorders, if they have a sensory need, if they like to lean in their chair a lot, these are really great because your kids have to focus on keeping the stool in an upright position as opposed to leaning one side, and it really helps them enable their core. I had 3 of these in the classroom, and I used them every single day. I had some students with diagnoses that required them or didn't require them, but they were very, very helpful. And in fact, I actually had a couple teachers borrow them as well. So if you feel like you are going to be serving students and with diverse needs, I highly recommend you check these out because they are absolutely amazing. And I know these can be a little bit on the pricier side. That's why I recommend asking your special education department if they have any that you can use and going that route too. The next second grade classroom must have I have for you are colored bins like these ones. I absolutely love these to color code my library. So how my library works is I have different levels. So the red color is a first grade leveled book, and the yellow are second grade, the green is third, and then anything higher was gonna be blue. And I included the blue tabs for the teacher read alouds. My kids weren't allowed to use those books without special permission. Essentially, I would use this to help build my kids' confidence. I wanted to make sure the first couple books they were reading in class were in their grade level and they were honing in on some skills we were working in our small groups. So how it would work is my kids would get 2 books in the color that I gave them. Once they had finished that book off and they could answer some questions about the story they read, they were then able to get a book in whatever color they wanted. I want to encourage kids to read and give them something that's within their level, but I also didn't want to deter them from reading books that they were interested in. In the future, I'm looking at creating more videos on classroom libraries. So what questions do you have? Put it in the comments below. In this kindergarten video, I talked about how I do centers in my second grade classroom or in my classrooms, but you might be wondering, what about small groups? Enter this cart. I loved using this clear cart to sort out what I was doing for each small group. What I would do is in each drawer for both reading and math, I would have different items or materials for different groups. What I loved about this is, again, it was compact into one area. I kept this cart by the teacher table where I would do my small groups, and it also helped keep me organized and have things planned out ahead of time. When I would print stuff out on Tuesdays and I would put it in that organization hanger on the wall, I would also go over and put whatever I was working on with my small groups in this cart as well. And that helped me stay on top of things and have things planned out ahead of time. So that's why I highly recommend this as a second grade classroom must have, because I loved using this cart to help me organize that. Plus, you can put supplies on the top of it. Now, you might have heard me say that I got rid of my classroom desks and I started using tables. This was for several reasons, because I love doing group work and I found it more feasible for the amount of collaboration I do in my classroom. My students had baskets that they put their stuff in and not desks, because I found if I put their supplies across the room, we were spending a lot of time going across the room to get things for our class and our lessons. That's why I started using these. Binders were amazing in my class. Inside each binder, I had a red folder, which we called our catch-up folder. Essentially, how it would work is when my students didn't finish something in class, they would put it in their catch-up folder. And whenever they had free time or they had time to work on things, they would get their items out of their catch-up folder and start working on it. This really helped declutter the baskets and make sure that they were staying on top of their missing work. Now, you definitely don't have to put your binders or your catch-up folders inside a basket like I did, but I loved using the binders because my kids were able to organize in the front, and if I made packets or anything, I was able to 3-hole punch them and put them inside as well. I also wanted to expose my students to using binders because I know in upper elementary they're going to use them a lot more. And I also wanted to show them how to organize their space to keep it organized and clean. And besides from using them for students, you can use them for anything and everything. So make sure to grab a couple extra binders for you. I use them for my parent contact info, pickups and drop-offs, and SATs, SIPs, IEPs, and everything else in between. So definitely something not to be overlooked. The next second grade classroom I have for you is actually coming with a time management hack as well. You see, the last thing you want to do for your centers, if you're doing centers in second grade, is to print out things every single week and making a copy for everyone and having to keep track of all those papers. That's why I highly recommend using these. Clear sleeves are amazing, especially when it comes to student centers. Now, there's two different ways you could go. You can get the clear sleeves that you use in binders. Those tend to be cheaper, or you can get these. These you can find on Amazon too, or Lakeshore, and these tend to be a little more expensive. But what I love to do with these is whenever I printed for new stations or new centers, I would just put the copies on that Friday or the time before the week started. I would put them in these clear sleeves, and then my students could use dry erase markers to fill out whatever worksheet or whatever we are working on. They would have to show me ahead of time before they erased it, and then they're good to go. So instead of having to make anywhere from 20 to 30 copies for each center, now I only had to make 5 to 7, depending how big my centers were, and it saved me a lot of time and a lot of paper. And also it helps keep your paper use low and the clutter down. And those are the second grade classroom must-haves. I really hope you got something out of this. If you found this video useful, please make sure to like and subscribe. That would really help me out. What questions do you have about teaching second grade? Let me know in the comments down below. And then if you are a primary teacher just starting out, I highly recommend you go download this Ultimate Primary Teacher Checklist, where I walk you through everything from setting up your classroom to the top 10 questions I get about being a primary teacher. I'll see you next time, teacher bestie. Bye.